Hey guys, it's me, Week 6, RFFL podcast, giving you the update on what's happened in the league. This is a special edition of the week recap because I'm joined by my guest, Dan Wise. Hey!
Hello.
We're here in their bed, there being, Dan and Sarah's, to give you this special edition, especially because I'm really warm. Dan's going to take the first two games of the week, as usual, starting with the largest win differential down to the least, and I'll take the second two. Dan, esteemed guest, take it away.
First off, this may be a short analysis because we do have the train wreck that will be the presidential debate coming up here shortly that we'll be watching.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of train wrecks, Team Minia.
Oh! It's lit!
Is he going to win a game this year? I'm not sure. Team Copsing had a very respectable showing at 136 points to Minia's 148.9 points. Copsing would have won a lot of games this week, but just got lucky here against Minia.
Was that 148 or 48?
That is 48.9 points.
Oh!
Yeah, did not even crack 50. And that's tough. I
think I got that with Odell Beckham this week.
Yeah, you just about had that with Odell Beckham. I will get there, though, later.
Okay.
Minia can't win when he has three players that don't even play. So, at this point, that's just a free game for everybody. If I had to have a biggest concern of any of the players, if I was Copsing, it would be Julian Edelman. Had really, really solid performance, averaging 15 points the first 2 weeks, and then has not broken 10 points those last couple weeks. We'd expect seeing having Brady back. He would jump back up, but that just has not happened. So hopefully an Edelman can turn it around again, and get back to those week 1 and 2 numbers. And not a major concern. I would say Danny has a really good squad all around, but.
Still lost to me.
One winner, I would say. Christine Michael averaged 9.5 the first 2 weeks, and has been in the mid to low 20s since then. So, a lot of good production from Christine Michael coming the last couple of weeks. Moving on to the next game, we have got the Shack Attack versus the Pugginators. Burka, I gotta let you know, everybody was rooting for you. Nobody wants to see Tom go to 5-1, and it's just sad. So I thought you had it in you. I was cheering for you, and I just couldn't pull it out this week. It's tough when you play against somebody. 142 points, very strong showing from your guys. But Tom's top 3 players scored him 99 points. When three guys
triple digits.
When 3 guys score 99 points, unless the rest of it's just a disaster, it's going to be a tough game for the opponent to win.
You embarrass me, Dan.
So, good all-around showing from both teams, really. If Ritter were to have a concern, it would be, again, Willie Snead. Snead had 32 points in week 1, 16 in week 2, and then is averaging about 5 points in the weeks after that. So not a pretty couple of weeks for Willie Snead. So it would be great to see him turn it around. In terms of Burke's team, expecting him to definitely have a bounce back game next week against the atrocious Super Bowl bound Bradford, projected to win by 12, and I expect that will be the case. Mm-hmm. If he has a concern, it's got to be Brandon Marshall. Again, not huge. I would say he would maybe not a concern as much as just an underperformer this week. With Eric Decker out, you'd expect that he'd see an increase in targets and an increase in production. Didn't find the end zone and only had 3 receptions. So, bit of a down week for Brandon. But overall, just a pretty darn good week for Burke's team and for the Pugginators.
Yeah, really good all-around showing. That's just what I want. I want to score the second most points in the whole league and then lose. And Austin, you're probably going to say, well, at least the Packers are good, right? Oh, wait. Yeah, Yeah, really cute, real mature, real mature. I just don't know what I got to do. I don't know what I got to do. It's like, do I think that Tom is rigging the league? I don't want to think that, but I'm thinking it. Not having fun.
With that, I turn it back to Mr. Tom Ritter.
Thanks, Dan. And moving on to the third game of the week, which was Dan's hometown Hotties versus the Super Bowl bound Bradford. Score of that game was the Osties team 102.3 to 93.9. And I can understand some of the bitterness Dan has towards Ostie this week, as Ostie kind of brought the bar down on him. And this game it's really interesting. It's a game of really wide receivers for Ostie. He's had Brandon Cooks, who's had an up and down year. Started the first 2 weeks of the season doing pretty well, especially that first week, getting him 30 points. And Cooks got back on that track with a 30-point game this week with a monster game against Carolina. DeAndre Hopkins also had a pretty good game for him, 16 points, and that's the second week where he's had 16 points. So hopefully he's kind of out of that slump and he's building back into the player that we normally think of when we think of Andre Hopkins. And mind you now, he won by 9 points with Antonio Brown only getting him 8 points. So this is the team with a lot more potential. The downside for Ostie this week had really horrible production from his running backs and his quarterback. Blake Bortles had 14, and his running backs combined this week, he had C.J. Anderson and Justin Forsett, didn't even get him 12 points. So that's a rough outing for his running backs. He's got Jonathan Stewart, who had a good game, a 20-point game on his bench, but the problem is he's coming back from injury, and in the first 2 weeks when Stewart was healthy, he didn't even break 10 points. So a little bit of concern there for Ossie. I'm not exactly sure how the future looks for him, but needless to say, he was able to perform pretty well this week against the hometown Hotties, which, I'll be honest, looking at their team, they're not so hot. I don't know if we can change the name to like hometown Naughties, not Hotties.
Maybe the hometown Ritters would be a
good.
good.
Hey, I'm giving my analysis here, so if you could just
you kept your mouth shut because you won, and I was turning into whoever else I was turning into.
This is my analysis, and I'll appreciate it if you be quiet. Thanks, buddy. Anyways, going well for the hometown Hotties. Drew Brees' team, 37 points, and that was a really good effort. Back to kind of what we kind of expect with Drew Brees, especially given his first 2 weeks where he performed very, very well. Tough side of the news for his team, Eddie Lacy now possibly injured. I've heard for the entire year he's getting a second opinion on that ankle, but it doesn't look good for him. On the good side of things, his wide receivers are performing a little bit better. A.J. Green had a game, and he's kind of building out of the slump similar to DeAndre Hopkins. Good positive point for Danny's bench. Looked really solid and really well-rounded. So, he's got guys who can kind of step in and play for him and pick up the slack when need be on these bye weeks coming up. So now transitioning to our last game of the week. Boy, Dan, this is a nail biter here. A single point separated Bend It Like Bridgewater, and Brady got back 130.1 to 129.1. And boy, obviously this is probably going to be the tightest game we're going to see. Really,
that's a possibility.
I've seen tighter, but man, it was tight. But on Tanel's side of the things, kind of a continuing theme for him. His running backs really pulled him through this week. He had 34 points from David Johnson and LaShawn McCoy. Aaron Rodgers had a disappointing game, but his two outstanding performances by McCoy and Johnson were enough to pull him through. Another similar to Dan's team, Cannell's got a really deep bench. He's got Alshon Jeffrey, Alan Hearns, Carlos Hyde, Matt Jones, and Michael Thomas on his bench, all whom had pretty good weeks with the exception of Carlos Hyde, but they were behind in that game, and so they weren't able to feed Carlos Hyde as much as they were in a normal game setting. For Reed's team, Brady got back. I love the name change, but man, this is a tough one, and exact opposite kind of story for him. Running backs Ryan Matthews and Isaiah Crowell did not perform well. Only got you 12 points total, but your wide receivers really came through. Terrell Pryor getting 29 points and Amari Cooper getting 23. So that was really great production from those two individuals. Allen Robinson had another tough game with 8 points, but you just kind of hope that he's going to build himself out of the slump that he's in. Terrell Pryor has been quite the pickup for Mr. Reed. It's been impressive looking at his information and his rank. He's the 9th best wide receiver, top 10, and has had some pretty huge games, 30, 10, 15, another 30-point game. So Browns are using him in a multitude of different ways, and so it's really impressive. Good pickup there from Reed. Another positive, and this is another bittersweet moment. Reed really could have won this one. Looking at his bench, he's got Duke Johnson, 17 points. Giovanni Bernard, 13 points. Those two guys right there obviously would have made the difference, and both of them got more points than the running backs that he started.
Jimmy Graham,
15 points on his bench. Chose to start Martellus Bennett over him.
I'm not good at keeping my mouth shut, am I, Ritter?
No. I mean you can comment whenever you want, but you just can't beat me down. I mean, I am number 1 in the league right now, so I think you got to give me some respect.
All right. We'll get back to that in a second.
Respect yourself.
When you're done with your analysis, we're going to get back to
But
that.
But yeah, that's week 6 recap, and I would assume Dan's going to talk a little bit of crap right now. So, Dan?
No crap from me here. I'm just want to make a couple predictions here.
Oh.
If you had to assess the playoff picture at this point in the league,
okay.
Nearly halfway through next week will mark the halfway point of the fantasy regular season.
Yeah.
What would you say are people's chances if you're putting 2 people in the playoffs from the East and the West? Who goes in and who goes in as the top seed?
Obviously you're asking me. I'm number 1. Got to put me at the number 1 seed.
I wouldn't argue with that.
Okay.
I wouldn't argue with that.
That my team's not perfect. Obviously, looking at our points for, I'm not the highest, but I'm up there, definitely up there. And I think there's some guys that stand out to me right off the bat. I think Super Bowl bound Bradford, Aussie's team, obviously got great wide receivers, weak on the running backs, but I think he can figure it out. I think he can punch his ticket there. But Reed also has a very solid team. I mean, if you think back to the beginning of the year, I voted for him to have the best team overall. Mm-hmm. So far, not really showing up 3-3, but I still think he's got a lot of potential. And then the West Division with Copsing, Tennell, you, and then Burka, that's a tight division. I mean, you've got Copsing and Tennell at 4-2. You're right behind at 3-3, and Burka has a really high points for. He's really scoring a lot of points, but obviously, as he'll tell you, has just been really unlucky.
And that's the crazy thing. When you look at Burka's points for and Ritter's points for, they have opposite records. One's 5-1 and one's 1-5. And Tom's only scored 2 more points in the entire season than Burka has. So it really has been a case of matchups.
Yeah,
not that Tom has a bad team, or that I'm ragging on his team, but it's been unlucky for Burka.
Yeah.
I would say Team Copsing has got to have the best chance in the West. I picked him at the beginning of the season as having the best team.
And he's got the most points for
in the whole league. So
about 60 points.
I would like to throw myself into that playoff picture.
Yeah.
I think there's potential to turn it around. Made some significant roster changes in the last, I guess just this week. So we'll see if that helps my 3-game losing streak. We get a rebound against the easy Team Minia this week. With that, I'm out.
Yeah, that's about it for the Week 6 recap. If you want more of Dan and I doing this and snuggling in he and Sarah's bed, you can ask. Put a poll out there on the league page. Rate this video against some of the other ones. Kind of give a good feel out. Maybe feel out is a poor word choice considering we're 2 men lying in a bed together. But you get my drift. Have a good week, guys. Good luck. Watch some football. Stay active on the waiver wires. Peace out.